a great regular in our streams. Congratulations on being first. Shortly after, we have J-Ray. Welcome to the stream, and Hamza. Can't forget you as well. Welcome, everybody. How's everyone doing today? Nice. Got quite a few people already. Nice loading screen. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I like that blue screen of death intro. Ethan, welcome to the stream, my friend. Does anyone know a good YouTube channel for OT cybersecurity? Not off the top of my head. Well, it depends what you mean. Like if you mean like IoT, well, we have our resident Andrew Bellini here. There's also Matt Brown, who does a lot of like IoT kind of hacking stuff. For like specifically like OT kind of stuff, I don't know, not really my forte. Like ICS kind of stuff as well. Couldn't tell you. Hey, Hamza. Yeah, it has been a while. PSAP is coming soon. I think we're aiming for August. So that's where that is at. There's also quite a few things happening in July as well. So I guess I'll just mention we have the SOC Live training, I think, yeah, starting on the 21st. So that's going to run for the 4 days or so during that week. So if you are interested in doing some live training on the blue team side, we'll be running that in about 3 weeks from now. The link will probably be going around chat. And I think also the attacking and defending AD live class is happening next Monday. So there's some live stuff coming up as we go through July, and then hopefully we'll have quite a few more releases in August as well. That's where we're looking at for the summer. We have Alex in chat. Welcome. Yeah, I did make that intro jingle in the video. If you notice, there's a lot of like Windows sound effects samples in there that I put in. New camera angle, yeah. So I got a teleprompter for like some of the YouTube stuff, and so I couldn't really fit it above my monitor, so I had to move everything back. I used to have this camera angle, and then I switched it to like a front-facing view because I just figured it looked better, but now I have to move it back. Never have enough space for everything that I need. Thank you, appreciate it. Yeah, it's funny going back on like older live streams on this channel that I did, and it's like right when I just moved into this place, and so all the walls were empty and there was like nothing in the room, and then slowly over time started putting things together. They're retiring the blue screen of death? I don't know. What are they gonna do when Windows crashes every 5 minutes? I thought I was way late to the stream when I saw blue screen of death. Yeah, that'll be at the end of the stream when we inevitably mess something up and and break our system. Oh, I didn't know that, yeah. All you guys are in the know here. Didn't know the blue screen of death was going away. It's legendary, man. They can't take that away. Going over to YouTube seems like the party is over there. Yeah, usually is. Yeah, that's where a lot of people like to come from. But we are streaming on quite a few platforms. Or simulcasting, I think it's called. Multicasting. I don't know. When is the SOC analyst training? Well, there's a live one happening on the 21st of July throughout that week. It's a 4-day class. If you mean like self-paced training, we have the SOC 101 class in the TCM Academy, and we'll have the SOC 201 class releasing shortly, I believe in August sometime. And that'll be a big class or a big course that I suspect will be growing over the year as well. Hey, Andrew, I just completed SOC 101 and did some preparation. Should I hop on the PSAA right away? Good question. So I would make sure first that you've done all the labs in the course for each domain. That'll get you on the right track. There's also a section at the end of the course where I list a bunch of resources, like some additional like labs and rooms that you can do external to DCM if you want to get more practice or hands-on um, practice. So I would go through those if you're not feeling super confident. But if you've got through all the labs, sort of no problem. You didn't have too much trouble, or if you did, you learned from them, right? So if you were to go back and do them, you know where sort of you went wrong the first time or that kind of thing. So you know how to, you feel confident doing those labs. You'll be in a good spot. The um, exam experience is going to be not in the same format as those labs, where it's sort of like you're given questions and you have like hints and answers kind of thing. It's going to be in more of a culminating kind of format, but the actual like techniques and the actual analysis you need to perform is just what you were doing in those labs. It's just sort of in a different higher stakes format, I guess you could say. It was big news this weekend. Yeah, that I did not hear about that. I guess I need to uh, keep my ear to the ground more. What did I do this weekend? I don't remember. It feels like every weekend is just blurring into the next week for me, at least this year. Black screen of death, better on the eyes. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. The blue screen is just so legendary, though. I hope they keep the sad emoticon face. Actually, I don't even know if they still have that in Windows 11. I don't think I've ever blue screened in Windows 11, and I've been running it for like a year. So, but I do like the little sad smiley face. What's your rating in Try Hack Me? We can check in a moment when we hop over. I'm not sure. I thought I was like top 1% for a bit because like when I worked at Try Hack Me, I would like QA rooms and I would like develop rooms. So like I was going through basically every room released on the platform, and so like I was like automatically like top 1% because I just would do them all. But I haven't really touched it other than a few streams here and there when we do Try Hack Me stuff. But I think I'm probably around 2 or 3% unless they change the the weightings again. We'll see. I love the Rekka sweater. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's one of my favorite sweaters. I love Black Hills and Anti-Siphon. Big fans of them over there. I look up to John Strand quite a bit, so yeah, nice to represent. Love your YouTube channel. I'm a UI designer learning cybersecurity from YouTube. Nice. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoy the channel. I was a web developer back in the day, and I did a lot of like UI and UX stuff as well. So similar kind of path. And then I moved into IT and cybersecurity. So that's nice to see. I'm not finding slides on SOC training. Yeah, the slides aren't in the repository. They're just sort of, you follow along. I don't think the PDF slides have been released for the courses, sort of to encourage you to take your own notes kind of thing. I don't know if we release the slides for courses. I'm not sure. If I get the go ahead, I'll add it to the repository, but I'll check on that. Yeah, good reminder, Britt. If you do want to watch like the first 11-ish hours of the SOC 101 course, that's all on YouTube. That's like straight from the course. So aside from, again, the labs and some additional files and some lessons here and there, we had to cut down to fit into that first 11 or 12 hours on YouTube, but you can watch it. And it's really cool. I encourage you to watch it. I want to cybersecurity. I like that phrasing. I want a cybersecurity as well. What roadmap do I want to learn? It just depends, like what kind of interests you in the field, right? There's different paths you can go down, and so I would look into again, do some research on maybe what inspires you most, right? Like, do you want to go down the penetration testing route? Do you want to do like SOC analyst work, or investigations and analysis, or digital forensics, incident response. There's different areas you can go down. And if you don't go down something you enjoy, right? If you're just like, oh, I want to be a pen tester, right? I want to be a hacker and make a lot of money. But if you don't enjoy doing that, you'll probably burn out pretty quickly. And so I would first put in some legwork and see what path you want to go down, because they're all going to have different roadmaps, right? There's going to be overlaps here and there. A lot of different fields are going to require similar foundations, right? You're going to want to learn your networking, your sort of operating system, sort of that PhD A plus kind of stuff before you go down a specific path. So there are some similarities at the sort of foundation level. But then it kind of quickly diverges depending on where you want to go. And then they kind of meet up in the end, right? So that's what I would figure out first, because there's different roadmaps all over. Any CTI type of content in SOC 201, or is a separate thing entirely? There's a bit of threat intelligence stuff, particularly as it overlaps with threat hunting. The two are kind of pretty entwined in terms of, if you want to do structured threat hunting, you need to have some decent threat intelligence. You need to be able to leverage that in some way. But don't know if I can say say for sure. But we were talking earlier this week about like future roadmap courses and stuff. I think CTI might be on the horizon there, so we might get some dedicated kind of CTI stuff in the works. Can't say for sure. We'll see where things go. Which certificate can you suggest someone to take after completing SOC 101 training? Again, depends sort of what you want to do and where you want to go, right? SOC 101 is going to give you a really good foundation on, that sort of tier one, blending into tier two analyst kind of work. So you're really going to know how and be comfortable doing investigations at that sort of triage level, working with a ton of different tools and evidence sources. And so really you can go in a number of different directions, right? You can sort of get more into threat hunting or digital forensics and incident response, and really sort of build some more advanced skill set there. But the SOC 201 is coming out soon, so maybe I would suggest that if you just want to sort of go in that sort of roadmap level. But I would just do more training, right? It doesn't have to be TCM. Try Hack Me as the SOC level 2 path, so you can probably get some good insights there as well, and help you go down different avenues. I'm a first-year cyber student. Should I take the CCNA exam this year? Would it help with job applications? Depends what you're applying for, right? I know some schools like sort of bundle in exams and training for exams. So if your school has something like that for the CCNA and you're sort of getting a free exam out of it, or a free voucher out of it, I would, definitely hop on board. I heard it's pretty tough. I'm not a big networking kind of guy, but again, that's one of the core foundations for any kind of cyber skill, right? So it wouldn't hurt. Definitely wouldn't hurt. If you have to pay for it out of pocket, I would maybe suggest looking at specific cybersecurity certifications or training rather. Again, depending on what role you kind of want to lock into. Excellent point by him. So there's no cert out there. There's no training out there that will ever guarantee you a job. If you ever see any kind of, wording out there that says, you will land a job after getting this certification, there's no way to track that. There's no way to prove that, right? It's really just a matter of, I kind of value training over certificates, right? If you're taking away valuable practical aspects from a course or a class or something, you're getting that hands-on experience, that's gonna be way more valuable, at least to me, than just a piece of paper, right? Any dedicated purple teaming content? That was another thing that came up when we were talking and planning. So I would suspect yes, at least probably within the next year or within a year. How did you get into cybersecurity? I started out in development, like web development, so not actually a programmer, so to speak. Um, and then I landed at a company where I was like the youngest person, and so I was like the dedicated computer kind of guy. And so eventually I had to like learn on the job, so to speak, and learn a lot of IT foundations because that sort of became my role, whether I liked it or not. But fortunately, I did kind of like it, and so I really just sort of studied up. At work and outside of work, went down the sort of CompTIA track, and then worked my way into networking and sysadmin, and then eventually into cybersecurity. I had a great manager that gave me a chance, even before I had like Security Plus. He just sort of saw the passion, and that I was like working hard outside of work and studying all the time. And so I told him I would get Security Plus if he gave me a job, and that's what happened, right? And then that's sort of how I got my foot in the door, and then after that, it became a lot easier. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's my favorite hoodie. All right, we have quite a few questions. So why don't we sort of store some of the ones that unfortunately I didn't get to because we're going to run out of time and not have time for our box today. So let us switch over right quick to Try Hack Me. And I think I can throw this up too. There we go. So that's going to be the room we're going to kick off in a moment here. It's just called Forensics. It's a hard rated room, so we'll see. We'll see how we do. Oops. All right. So what we have here is a memory dump of a compromised system, which I've already downloaded. Let me just hop into a terminal here. I should have it. Yeah, so we have it. We download a zip file here, and then I've extracted it to this raw memory image, which we'll use for the majority of this challenge, I assume, to do some forensics kung fu and explore the inside of that memory file. So yeah, we're not really given too much of a scenario here. We're just sort of given, sort of handed a memory dump of an infected system, which sort of have at it, so to speak, which is nice because I like using my own tools and whatnot. But just sort of skimming through the questions, I noticed a few questions that probably would benefit using certain tools over others. And so, for example, my go-to is Volatility 3, just because it's sort of the latest and greatest. But there's some issues with Volatility 3 in the fact that, not really issues, but there are quite a few plugins that Volatility 2 had that have not really been ported over to Vol 3. And so you oftentimes run into issues or you're having to do workarounds if you're just running Vol 3. So a lot of times I'll run both, right, on an analyst machine. And so that's what we'll do here. I'm just going to use Volatility 2 for this because there are some plugins that I think are going to make our lives a ton easier. We won't get into like actually installing it because it can be sort of a pain. But I think the attack box on TryHackMe probably has it pre-installed. So that could be an option. But yeah, it is kind of a pain to install it. So let me just get everything ready. I have my victim machine here. I have Volatility 2 installed. So I'll hop into that. And I just have a pretty simple virtual Python environment set up. So I can just open that up. What did I call it? There we go. Bin activate. There we go. Let me pull up the chat too while we do this, because I assume if we're going to be running some volatility plugins, we're probably going to be waiting every now and then for those to finish. So, all right. Answer the questions below. We could check the hash, but I assume, I just downloaded it from here. So yeah, download complete. First question done. What is the operating system of this dump file? What is the OS name? So that's fairly straightforward. Again, whether we're using Volatility 2 or 3, we can just run the info command, right? Or on vol3, we can run windows.info against that memory image. So that's exactly what I'll do here. So I'll just call Python full.py, then provide the name of the file, which we call victim.raw, and then I'll just run, is it info or image info? Actually, that's a good question. Let me pull up the help. Info. Image info. There we go. Okay, so I'll just run image info, and I think we just run it like that as an argument. So what this is going to do is basically, what does this stand for? Kernel debugger, I think, or kernel database. I think kernel debugger is basically trying to determine which profile this operating system is. So it's sort of digging into some of those memory artifacts and saying, for this, build of Windows, this version, this is most likely a match. And so it's kind of running through some of these profiles here. So you can see it's going to suggest what it thinks this memory image returns to. So it's going to give us quite a few profiles here. So we can probably just grab this first one here for the rest of our commands. Because with Volatility 2, we need to specify basically what we think our profile is. And so that's something that we need to do if we're running Vol 2. But again, it looks like we're running some kind of Windows 7 service pack, something, whatnot. So I'm assuming our answer here is going to be Windows of some sort. I just saw this come across. Looks like someone became a member. Congrats and thank you. Cyberleaf, welcome. Welcome, welcome. That made me feel exposed. Whoops. It came up. It was so nice and green on my end. It was like, boom. Had to shout it out. All right. What is the operating system of this dump file? I'm just going to go with Windows here. That looks right. All right, so that was pretty simple. Now, what is the process ID of Search Indexer? So with that, we can basically just run through the process list, right, of this memory image, and just grab out the PID number for this process. That should be fairly straightforward. But what we need to do first is, again, we need to specify the profile, because again, we're using Volatility 2. And so let me just run the same command again. This time, after I sort of specify the file of the memory image, I'm just going to run -- profile and set it to equal. And again, I'll just paste in that first suggested one that it gave us there. And then we can just run something like PS list. Right, we can run that on any kind of version of Volatility. Fairly standard plugin here to basically just say, hey, give me a process list of all the active processes that we're running sort of at the time of capture. And what I'll usually do if we're going to be manipulating this is I'll pipe it out to a file. So I'll just pipe that over or direct it out over to pslist.txt, just so we can manipulate it and work with it. Because we'll notice that it'll probably take a few moments to complete this, or it'll be right away. But again, we don't really want to be running all of that extra CPU every time we run the command, right? So we can just save it out once to a file, and then we can, grep it out or search it or cut it up as much as we want. Jesse, welcome to the stream, my friend. Nice to see you again. We're just running through some memory forensics on TryHackMe. All right. So now we should have pslist.txt. There we go. It's kind of zoomed in and getting pushed on my end. Let me see if I can zoom out. That's a bit better. Okay. So now what we can do is, we can manipulate this file now without having to run volatility every time. And so what I can do is just grep out for search indexer, right? So I can just say grep search indexer. I can run attack I there to make sure it's not, or make sure it's case insensitive. Then run it against pslist.text. Looks like we have a result. And what we could do to clean this up or make it a little bit better for us, because notice everything is sort of in a column here, right? We have like the memory offset, we have the name, the process ID. But if we didn't know what these columns were, we could just run some command line kung fu here. I could first call, let me just do a new line. First call the head command against pslist.text. And I say I want to grab the first line here, which is going to be all those column names. And then I can sort of append an additional command here to just grep out for what we want. And there we go. So now we're getting the column name on the first line, and then we're searching for, we're specifically matching search indexer. So we can see the offset, the name, process ID in this case is 2180. So I can just grab that for our answer here. And there we go. Something is going crazy with this music in the background. I don't know if you can hear that. Let me stop that. What the heck was that? I think Restream has like AI generated music, and I think it just blew up or something. All right, let's get back to it. What is the last directory accessed by the user? Okay, so this is the question that I was skimming through that made me think, yeah, we should probably use vol2 for this, because if we're thinking about the last directory accessed by a user, we're probably focused on some kind of forensic artifact that might help us determine that. And so what immediately comes to mind to me are things like shell bags, right? We sort of have these Windows registry keys that can store information about how a user might have browsed or viewed a folder or files in the File Explorer. There's sort of shell bags are kind of like this artifact in the registry that we can find that helps Windows remember what we had open, right? Or how we last viewed a folder. So it can help us open that up the next time we open up an Explorer window, right? So if you recall, like we have like, we can change like the size of a window. This obviously isn't a Windows system, but you can change the size and the sort of position of your File Explorer, and sort of Windows is smart and remembers that. That's because of partly because of shell bags. And so we can take advantage of that artifact, which is not sort of explicitly intended for us as analysts to use, but we can use that to help us determine what folders were maybe browsed to on the system. And that sounds a little difficult, but again, using Volatility 2, there's a nice and easy shellbags plugin that we can use for that. I don't think it's been ported over to Vol 3. So if you are running Volatility 3, you're gonna have a much harder time. You'll probably have to query those registry entries directly, or dump out the hive, like the NT user or the user class hive, and then run it through something like Shellbags Explorer or Registry Explorer. I don't really want to do all that, and I'm not running a Windows system, so that's going to be even more annoying and difficult. So that's why I went with Volatility 2. So let me just make sure that is a thing that we can take advantage of. So I'm going to run the same volatility command. I'm just going to run help and then grep for shell. See if we can find that. And while that waits, I'm going to try to put the music back on, the background music, without it exploding again. There we go. All right, so it looks like we do, in fact, have a shellbags plugin that we can use to basically parse out and print the shellbags info. Because some of it is, if you sort of query it directly, you're going to find that it's sort of in a weird format. We kind of have to decode it, and that's why we have, again, tools like Eric Zimmerman's Shellbag Explorer, which can sort of parse that out for us, or the shellbags plugin if we're using volatility. And so that should be fairly simple to just run here. So if I just run shellbags, we should get quite a bit of info. to help us point us in the right direction. And so it's going to gather up all those shell bags because, again, there are different paths in the registry that it can query, different locations we can find this kind of stuff. And then it's going to build out sort of a nice output for us. And it might take a bit. Well, while we wait, I will scroll back up in the chat. Can you create a symlink for volatility to keep everything separated? Yeah, absolutely. I'm just being lazy here and running it out of my home directory, sort of backing out to the path and just dumping files in volatility, which is absolutely not what you should do. But again, just for a simple demonstration. Why are you using Ubuntu instead of Kali Linux? Because Kali sucks. I mean, we're not really. Yeah, Kali does have volatility. I don't know what version it has. It might actually honestly have volatility 2 pre-installed, but I just prefer building my own kind of analyst machine. There's a lot of bloat in Kali that is nice for the penetration testing side, but that's not what we're doing here. And that's rarely what I need it for. So I just sort of keep things a little bit more shaved off, so to speak. But you can absolutely use Kali for this, especially if it's pre-installed. I don't know if it's volatility 2 or 3 now, if they've upgraded in the Kali distro. So it might be, it might not. All right, so we did get quite a bit of info, and I'm realizing already what I should is save this out to a file. So let me try that again while we sort of scroll through this. So one thing I'm kind of concerned about here, not concerned, but like the thing I'm focusing on is the access date, right? Because the question is around what is the last directory accessed by the user. And so this is kind of, again, a forensic artifact that we can use to help infer that maybe something might have been accessed. There are definitely some caveats around a lot of these artifacts, especially the execution ones, in terms of, does it actually prove execution? Not all the time, right? Does it actually prove directory and file access? Maybe in some cases. But we just have to be careful. We have to validate our findings, right? We can't just say absolutely for sure. There are other things that we can query to help validate that as well. But again, if we're just doing a try hack me box, I'm assuming the answer is somewhere in here. So I'm just trying to see what the latest access date is. And that's going to be pretty difficult scrolling through it, which is why, there we go. I saved it out to shellbags.txt. And so now we can start to use some more command line kung fu to cut the access date out and sort of see what the most recent kind of access was. And so we can probably use the cut command or the awk command to do that kind of thing. Let's see. So I'm focused on the access date. So we might need to, let me just grep for access date. Yeah, that's not going to give us much info. Let me try awk, see if we can. This might work, it might not work. I'm not exactly sure. Let's try, can we do a range? No. That's probably not going to work either. We might just have to go through it. Because again, you can just see how many different entries we have here. So it's going to kind of be a pain to figure out what was the most recent. But not impossible. So it looks like it's mostly around 2019, 04, 10. We have 04, 23. Um, 0427. Okay, so why don't we just grep out for that then? Let's try to grep out 2019 0427. That was the latest one I saw. So it looks like we have some events or some entries. If I change that to 28, we have nothing. 29. Okay, so that was a sort of quick and dirty way for us to see, sort of break this down here. And so it looks like that's the latest date. Now, what about the time, right? So we have 10, 37, 32. So we can sort of go through this again in the same kind of way. But I am seeing some interesting things here. We have emotet.text, emotet.hiv. Not looking good, right? Emotet, red shot. We have a logs directory that was sort of mounted in the C drive, which is interesting. We have deleted files. We have some temp files. What time was this at? 10:38, 10:38, 10:38, 10:31. Yeah, so this actually looks like the latest one. Yeah, so zlogs was mounted or some kind of thing. And then right after that, a few seconds after that, we have deleted files. So what does it want here? The last folder name. Yeah, and it looks like that's deleted files. Okay. Oops. And so it looks like the attacker or something mounted this C drive to the system. And so again, the shellbags artifact is letting us know that, hey, Windows saw this this location, right, and it sort of saved it in the registry here. And then it also saw under this logs folder, it saw a deleted _files folder. And that was from the timestamp here, the last accessed was the most recent one. So kind of confusing. The shellbags plugin makes that a lot easier for us to do. If we were on a Windows system, we could, again, export out or dump that registry hive, throw it into something like Registry Explorer or Shellbags Explorer, and that would probably give us a simpler, cleaner answer. But we are able to do it just from here as well, just by grepping out what was the latest accessed directory or file. Okay. On to task 2. There are many suspicious open ports. Which one is it? Okay. That's kind of, we're kind of going back and making things easier, because we can probably just run netstat at this point, just like we did with pslist. So let me go all the way back to our volatility command. And so again, yeah, we can run pslist to sort of list out all those open processes or active processes. We can run something like netstat, just like we could in the command line, right? To sort of enumerate all of that. Or maybe not. Do we have netstat on here? Net. Oh, okay, so we have netscan. In Volatility 3, we have both. So I guess that was that's another change between the two. And so we'll just run netscan here. It's going to, again, enumerate all of those sort of network connection sort of artifacts in the memory image and pull out. Again, we have things like listening ports. We have things like closed connections, open or established connections, maybe, maybe not. But again, it's just kind of like running netstat in the terminal or on Windows, right? All right. So the question is, there are many suspicious open ports. Which one is it? So we can go to listening, try to figure out which open ports we have. So we have the local address, the foreign address, but we don't have. Oh, okay, yeah, the ports are listed here. So we got, yeah, quite a few listening ports, some system processes. I don't really know what it's looking for specifically. This is a little interesting. We have WMP network.exe on 554. We have some LSAS. Some of this is kind of normal. Some of this I don't know off the top of my head if it's normal or not. We just sort of have to do trial and error here, but I am seeing this process quite a bit in the results here. And what we could do is try to figure out what this is. So a site I like to use is Echo Trail. And what we can do here is basically click on search. And it allows us to search for Windows process names, or we can search for hash values as well. But we can just paste in a process name, and it's going to tell us sort of what it might be. So in this case, we have the Windows Media Player Network Sharing Service. Interesting. Why that would be connecting to the network, I'm not sure. It tells us sort of a host prevalence, right? So basically, what's the percentage of hosts in the wild that actually have this binary or have this executable running on it? And it looks like we have 6.8% here, which is actually quite low. So that sort of adds to a bit of suspicion. And it gives us a ton of stuff, right? Like the top paths, sort of where this process should be spawning from, hash values as well, the top network ports, which we didn't really see here. We saw a different one. And it also tells us things like the top parents and grandparents and children of that sort of process hierarchy. So a lot of useful things we can glean from Echo Trail here. And so I am a little suspicious of this process, why it's sort of making so many connections. And so it's asking us, which one is it? Well, there are a bunch. What's the hint here? Yeah, right, the first one. Okay. Do they just mean the first line? Protocol port? I'm not sure if this is what they're asking for. UDP 5005. It's the first line in the output here. But then if we go down to listening ports, I feel like it's one of these. I just don't know if they mean like the first line. Yeah, we'll try it. Oops. Protocol port. Nope. I feel like it is this process though, because that's the only kind of one that stands out. Let's try to grep just for that. Okay, so we have a listening one here on 554. Okay, let's try that. No. Do they just want UDP like that? No. Maybe UDP like that. Okay, there we go. I don't know if it's just me overlooking it. That was a little bit confusing to me, what they were actually... Whatever, we found it. This process is probably doing some evil things. Yeah, try removing the 4. Thank you. That's partly what it was. If I had that the first time, it would have worked. Thank you. All right. Okay. VADS tag and execute protection. Oh, VADS tag and execute protection are strong indicators of malicious processes. Can you find which they are? Can you find which they are? Answer format, PID1, PID2, PID3. Okay, so we have this concept of VADS in our sort of in memory, right? There's sort of these virtual address descriptors. And this is kind of getting a little bit into advanced memory analysis, I guess. But basically there's sort of these objects or structures, I guess you could say, basically to help keep track of different memory regions that get allocated by a specific process, right? So they're called virtual address descriptors. So they're kind of like a map, like all the different memory allocations, again, for a specific process. And each VAD sort of has its own metadata. And so it sort of includes what kind of memory it is, which is where we get these VAD tags, and different like protection settings, right? So we can see like execute protection. So whether or not this process is executable and whatnot, right? Or read only, that kind of thing. And so, whoops, we can query that. I'm sure there are quite a few plugins that can help us query that. But when we're looking for, again, malicious processes or maybe processes that have been injected into, we can use a few different well-known volatility plugins for that. Malfind comes to mind. Basically helps us find like hidden or injected code, specifically by looking at those odd characteristics, right? Looking at the VAD tag and sort of the execute protection or permissions attached to that process. It's pretty complex plugin. I don't actually know how it works, but it is really cool and is a well-known plugin. I think it like won a volatility award or something like that for being like the best plugin for this kind of purpose. But basically, when we're looking at processes in memory and we find various memory regions that have maybe uncommon or like VAD tags that don't really make sense, or they're marked with execute permissions but aren't sort of backed by an image, might be, again, indicators of code injection or some kind of shell code being injected or that kind of thing. And so we can use, again, simple plugin like Malfind to help us with that kind of thing. If I just do a search here for Malfind, it'll hopefully have a description. Yeah, okay. Find hidden and injected code. Let's see if we can get any more info on it. Yeah, so there we go. Malfind command helps find hidden or injected code or DLLs in user mode memory based on those characteristics, like the VAD tag and page permissions. And so, pretty simple to use. We just need to specify it. And again, it's going to run through all the processes in the sort of VAD tree and enumerate what matches those characteristics, right? And so it looks like we got quite a bit of results. We can see some assembly. And this is pretty much as low level as I like to get. So looks like we have Explorer. So that's one process. Again, Explorer as well. They had the same PID number, so different locations within this process. SVC host with a similar process ID, but a different one, 1820. And SVC host.exe, same one. And then, yeah, this weird Windows Media Player network thing with port 2464. And so, again, we can sort of see the characteristics why they sort of were a hit here. We can see, for example, the VAD tag. The protection is page execute read write. Right, so the memory is writable and executable. We don't really see that this region in memory is sort of mapped to a file or a DLL. So someone sort of allocated this manually. I'm not really going to jump into what any of this is. This is sort of just a different language to me. I have no idea what's going on here, but some of it might be gibberish, right? Some of it might actually point to malicious shellcode, right? And so I'm just going to take face value here that these are more or less indicators that something weird, something malicious is going on, again, due to these sort of characteristics of these memory regions. And so we can just grab those process IDs here. Again, for the Explore process, it's going to be 1860. The other one was 1820. Yeah. And then 2464. No, maybe not. Oh, yeah, semicolon. There we go. What was the hint for that question? There are only 3 process IDs matching this criteria. Yeah, I mean, that's what we found. I don't think we have time to really dive into why and sort of, understand it to that low level. But again, the Malfind command is really powerful for this kind of use case in sort of detecting injected code like that. All right, IOC saga. In the previous task, you identified malicious processes, so let's dig into them and find some indicators of compromise. You just need to find them and fill in the blanks. Okay. Is a different file or the one we already have? I think it's the same file. Why do we have to download it again? Let me see if this is actually the same file. Because this task also had a file, which I didn't download, but we still answered it. Let's see. I'm just going to compare the hash values of these to see if they're the same or not. Yeah, it's the same file. Okay, that was unnecessary. Okay, so we have a number of indicators or IOCs here, like domain names, IP addresses, and it wants us to match them in the memory image. There are a ton of ways we could do this, I suppose. We could start pulling out and dumping out processes from memory and search them that way. Or we can just run strings. We can just run strings against the entire memory image. And I think that'll still work. Because again, if you think about it, it's just a sort of image of everything that was running at the time. So if we run strings against the memory image, and if there's a string in a process or within a binary or a file, within that image, we should be able to find it from memory. And so that's my thought process here. Keep ourselves simple here and not go pulling things out of memory. So strings. And then it looks like we're gonna have to do some regex here or some kind of wildcard substitution. Because again, we sort of have these asterisks here or whatever it's called. So whoops. Let's run it against the file. And then what I want to do here is grep, and we can use regular expressions with grep, or we can use Perl compatible regular expressions, which is a little bit easier in my opinion, for doing this kind of like wildcard search. And so all we need to do here is just escape out things like the dots or the special characters here. And then instead of like actually typing out wildcards like this, we have to actually say that we can use the dot here to say we want to match a wildcard. And then within like curly brackets here, we can say we want to match one wildcard or two wildcards. In this case, I think it was 4. Right, so we have 4 letters that this could be. And so I'm just basically saying, providing this range of 4 here to this wildcard character. A little bit confusing, but that's sort of how the sort of common regular expression syntax kind of works. And so we'll see. There we go, getting a few hits. And so it's carving through that entire memory image and matching just on our string here. So it looks like we have a few different results. They're all .ru domains. And there's no indication of which one it wants, right? So I guess trial and error. They're all the same length, so that trick's not going to help me now. Yeah, we'll just trial and error it. In theory, these would all be indicators unless... oh, maybe we had to do is specifically drill into those suspicious processes. That's probably what we need to do. I'm just being lazy because for the sake of time here, so we can get to some more questions at the end. It's not this one. There we go. Okay. So again, same kind of thing. A lot of this is going to be pretty similar here, using similar kind of syntax. So in this case, we have I here. Let me just see what that was. Whoops. That's the wrong one. I want to copy this. Stop it. There you go. Just so I have it as reference. So again, I'm just going to modify our pattern here just a little bit. So you have www, and that's going to be I, and then, yeah, 4 letters. So that should be fine. Same thing, just going to carve through that memory image. in search of a few of these. Is it this one? Nope, has to be this one. There we go. What even are these domains? Okay, third one here. It's gonna be pretty similar. Whoops. Okay, so that one's gonna be .com. We're gonna start with IC, and then how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So really just changing the pattern. We're being as lazy as possible here. There we go. IC SA Labs. All right, for IP addresses, similar kind of process, right? We're just gonna do it multiple times. Whoops. So let me change up our pattern quite a bit here. How are we gonna do this? 202, and then we escape out the dot slash, just like that. And then again, we can say wildcard with another dot, and then we can say 3, because it's looking for 3 characters. Again, this is like the worst possible way to do this, or like the laziest way to do this, but it's the way I'm doing it. Whoops. I messed something up. What did we mess up? Oh, what did I mess up there? 202 dot 3 slash dot. Oh, 233. There we go. Forgot the third octet. Just like that, we have a match. All right, 3 more to go. This one's going to be 3.200.2.164. Okay. 3.200.2.164. Right? Yeah. There we go. And then 209.190.3.3. I think I messed that up. There we go. Oh, whoops. I need to remove this. There. There we go. So again, we of course want to do actual things with these indicators rather than just, pasting them in here. We might want to submit them into a threat intelligence platform, or look up again on VirusTotal, for example, or some kind of site to do more research on these. But again, we're just checking boxes here. What is the unique environmental variable of process ID 2464? I know in Vol3 there's some plugins for environment variables, so let's figure that out. There we go. Let me run the help command and grep out for environment. There we go. Envars display process environment variables. Let me see the help for that specific plugin. Can we provide a process ID? Yes, we can. Okay, so P and the process ID is 2464. And so what I'm doing here is just providing the name of this process ID, and it's going to run in and basically enumerate and print out all the environment variables attached to that process. And then we should be able to find, I guess, something that sticks out here, right? There's quite a few. And so that's going to be kind of a pain. Oh, I know what we could do. Okay, I'm going to save this out to a file. I'll just call this bad.txt. So apparently this is a bad process. And then I'll baseline it, right? So I'll pull up a different process enumerate all of its environment variables, and see if we can find anything unique about one or the other. See if there's any additions that shouldn't be there. So that's a pretty useful technique, again, when we're doing this kind of thing. Is just baselining, or if we don't have a baseline, we can spin up a similar process, or like spin up for a system, for example, if we're baselining a system, and sort of do a comparison or differential operation there. And so we have this bad one now. Let me just run the same thing. Let me run PS list and get a good process to use as our baseline. Let's just grab task host. I don't think that was involved in anything malicious here so far, so that should be a clean example. So I'll run the same thing again. This time I'll paste in the process ID of task list, which is 1148, and then I'll just call this baseline.txt. Call it whatever we want. All right. So now we have bad.txt, and we have baseline.txt. I'm trying to figure out which line here. So obviously the values might be different, right? But which variable name or environment variable name sort of sticks out, if any. So what we could do here, how can we do this? We can run awk again, like we tried to do earlier. So let me print out, because it's sort of like tab spaced delimiters for that output there. So let me just try to print the first one from bad.txt. Yep, there we go. So that's giving us the process ID. 2 is going to give us the process name. 3 is going to give us the block. It's got to be 4. There we go. So now we have sort of all those variables in a list. And what I could also do here is also do that for baseline.txt. And so now we're printing out all of the variable names for both of those processes. And now it's just as simple as sorting those out and sort of cutting up the unique entries, right? Because if there's one variable name here that sort of is only in one of these, we can cut that out fairly simple with the unique command. And so what I'll do here is sort that first. And so then that's just going to basically put all the duplicate entries beside each other. And then we can easily run something like unique.u to basically only give me the unique entries, right? Just cut everything out and just give me the ones that only appear once. And there we go. Let me just make sure that was in baseline. no cache. Oh, yeah. So it wasn't in baseline, but is it in bad? Yes. Okay, so that's got to be the answer. Hopefully that made sense, what we just did there. That was pretty clever, actually. I'm kind of proud of myself. And that should be it for this challenge. Please? Yes, there we go. Nice. That actually wasn't too bad. Now that we had all of those plugins available to us, right? If we didn't have Volatility 2 on our hands, it would be a little bit more difficult. We'd have to do things manually, right? Or maybe more manually, or use different tools. And so that's why it's important to understand what's going on at the sort of level that we need to. So really the tool doesn't matter too much, right? What switches are those for this awk command? So what we're doing here is unique-u, and then that's going to basically cut out the unique. It's only going to give us which entry appeared once in our list. And so, for example, if I go to explainshell.com, this is also a really good resource. So if I run unique-u, it's only going to print the unique lines. Another one I also use is unique-c if I just want to count up how many sort of aggregated values there are. But yeah, that was a quick way to do that. All right, let us. Oh, I'm like, I thought you meant the switches on the command. I'm running a GMMK Pro something, and I just have brown switches in them. Whoops. Well, anyone watching, you now have this explain shell site, which is really useful. All right. Let's hop back over to chat and wrap up with some Q&A. Yeah, I'm just running brown switches. Okay. So many questions, I can't even scroll back up that far. All right. Let's see what we have in the pinned. What were your most hard obstacles while pursuing cybersecurity? Good question. Probably just the amount, like the sort of depth of everything you need to know to sort of have a baseline knowledge. Like, I know a lot of people want to be like super into one kind of thing. Like, I'm really good at forensics. I'm really good at this kind of thing. But when you're just starting out, there's so much, like, you sort of have to be a jack of all trades for a little bit, right? You really have to um, have like what's that saying, like a mile wide but an inch deep kind of understanding of many different things. I think that's why like something like the Security Plus or the PSEC course that we have does so well, is that it covers all of those different areas. But of course, not enough time to go into super heavy detail into everything, right? Like, you're not getting advanced into every single topic out there, but you need to have that sort of baseline understanding of a ton of stuff in security when you're starting out, and then you can start to move on, because there's so many prerequisites, right? Like, for example, running volatility. Like, if I didn't know what processes were, like process IDs and sort of how they operate and how operating systems work, and like core Windows processes and what that should look like and what evil looks like, or like, how things should look and how they shouldn't look. A lot of that sort of baseline knowledge you need to have before you start doing something like memory forensics or whatever. Makes it a ton easier. How does Home Labs compare to the build in SOC simulators? I mean, the comparison is you're just running it locally versus it being hosted somewhere else, right? Like, you can definitely replicate anything you see in like a cloud range, right? So like something like TryHackMe or Blue Team Labs Online or Hack the Box, right? Like, you could definitely replicate that stuff if you have, again, the hardware and resources for that. I don't think there's any, like, you're not losing out on the learning aspect, except for being able to actually architect and build out that stuff from a system level. But I think if you're just focusing on like the actual learning outcomes of doing something like hunting for threats in a sim, for example, you're going to get this similar experience if you're running Splunk locally versus in the cloud. But you might learn a ton more by setting it up yourself. I'm new to all this, so it's very interesting to me, and you explain very smooth. Thank you. Appreciate that. So I'm just running through all the pin questions now. I'm 28 years old, working as a cloud engineer. Do I have a chance to get a cybersecurity junior role? Yeah, I would even say like, focus on like getting up your security knowledge. I don't think you need to start out in a junior role. If you work as a cloud engineer now, you probably know a lot about AWS and Azure. You can probably transition nicely into a cloud security engineer role, right? Like, or a DevSecOps kind of role, right? Or like, cloud is huge, right? So having that knowledge from an engineering aspect, you just need to sprinkle some security in there, right? The Azure AZ500, for example, will be nice to maybe put, or if you're more of a AWS focused shop, right? If you're currently working as a security engine or as a cloud engineer, I would see if there's any sort of internal ways to move into that kind of role, or maybe take on more security oriented projects, really build up that experience, and maybe that will develop into a new kind of role for you. That's kind of what I did at one of my positions. We were starting to lift and shift things into Azure. And so I started taking on more projects, right? And getting more knowledge on cloud security, and eventually worked my way up doing that kind of thing. What is the Linux operating system? We were just using Ubuntu there. Sort of like just a home lab I set up for doing a lot of these streams. Over time, it's grown in the tools that I have on it, right? So for this one, again, I had to install Volatility 2 to make our lives easier. What's the type of victim.raw file? It's just a memory dump. I don't know how it was specifically collected, but it's just a standard memory kind of image. There's a ton of different tools and acquisition ways you can get that kind of thing. Do you think CTFs are a realistic way to measure one's skill? Yeah, I think there's give and take. I think In some cases, they can be really good. In some cases, they can sort of abstract things that would otherwise um, be hard to replicate, right? Um, like all the actual noise in enterprise environment, or like that kind of thing. It's really hard to replicate, right? You'd almost have to set up a cloud range and um, have like real people running real workstations to collect like real telemetry. Like it's really tough. So and having used to build things like that um, and different cyber ranges and CTF challenges myself, I definitely ran into how hard it is to balance out learning outcomes, but also keeping things realistic and practical and sort of like real life. And so I think it's probably one of the best ways. Like I don't think there's any substitution unless you like get dropped into a real environment and are tasked to do things. Um, but I definitely think there's merit in doing that kind of thing. Um, any other useful sites? Yeah, how much time do you have? Um, if you look at the SOC 101 course that we dropped on YouTube, like there's the free 12 hours of it. There's a course repository for that free version, and within that, I also include the class bookmarks that I have for the SOC Level 1 live training and also the full SOC 101 course. There's a ton of different resources like for threat intelligence or phishing analysis, network analysis, every kind of domain that we cover in the course. I have a number of useful sites in there, explain shells in there, I think echo trails in there, like all the things we covered today. So a lot of useful resources in there. If you just go on the TCM YouTube channel, look at the recent SOC 101 video that we put out. I'm a full beginner if I complete SOC 101 course. After that, can I begin to exercise my skills on labs from Try to Hack Me? Yeah, I mean, you can probably do it now. The SOC 101 course has a ton of built-in labs, and that'll really prepare you, I think, for a lot of things like Try Hack Me or Blue Team Labs Online, Hack the Box, Sherlock's. Yeah, like I wouldn't even try to wait. Like I would just, if you have time, go for it and see if you get stuck. If you get stuck, return to the training or return to doing some more research, putting the legwork in. And I think you'll find that there's a lot of carryover. A lot of the skills you learn doing one thing will really translate well to doing some other practical things as well. Any updates on SOC 201 course being released? Yes, we're aiming for August. Is practicing the only way to learn all this stuff? I mean, yeah, yes and no. Um, you can definitely learn a lot from a PowerPoint, right? But you're only going to learn so much if you're not actually getting in there, getting your hands on keyboard, breaking things, trying to fix things, and just doing the work, right? Like it's kind of like playing a sport, right? Like you have practices where you're doing drills, right? You're like you have 100 balls and you're practicing hitting them in the top right corner, right? But when it comes game time, you're putting all of those skills together, right? You're culminating everything, right? Like you're running drills, you're passing drills, you're shooting drills, everything. So it's kind of like game time versus practice time. And I think the only way to really have things feel natural in game time is to put in that work in practice time, if that makes sense. All right. So I'll just say we're probably going to wrap things up here just because we're a bit over time and have quite a bit of other things I need to do today, unfortunately. But if you have any questions that I sadly didn't get to, just hop over to the TCM Discord. There's a live stream channel for the Wednesday streams. You can drop your questions in there if you want, or if you drop it somewhere else, I'll probably be notified of it, and I can probably get to it at some point. So thank you all for attending the stream. That was a pretty cool one. Hopefully we'll do some more forensic kind of stuff or blue team kind of stuff next time I'm on stream, probably in a few weeks. So thank you all for attending and for helping me out and for having a good time. Have a great rest of your week.